Tonight, a ceasefire in the Philippines' 17-year civil war. Ronald Reagan's popularity slumps in the wake of foreign policy setbacks, and Alan Border believes his young side will come good in the Perth Test.
In only a few short months, 2017 has already been a tumultuous one for the history books. The world is teetering closer and closer to annihilation. A child occupies the White House. Russians are offering to buy elections. And the South China Sea has as many claimants as a Versace bag at a Black Friday sale. And at this time, a beloved leader has stepped down. Tall, slightly goofy, loved by millions, with a gorgeous wife. His legacy will be defined by his unwavering commitment to universal health care. We are, of course, speaking of David Deutscher. Yes, that's right. After 30 years of slicing and dicing with the precision of a Japanese train schedule, David has decided that it's finally time to hang up the stethoscope. As his era comes to a close, we asked his friends, family and colleagues to reflect on his many accomplishments.
You've made an enormous contribution, not only to the Ballarat Surgical Clinic, but also to Ballarat and the wider community.
He, as I said, was innovative and developed many new procedures.
A total thyroidectomy, for instance, when at a time when most of us were still doing subtotal thyroidectomies.
Bariatric or metabolic surgery procedures, as he describes it.
Surgical ERCP, complex laparoscopic surgery.
Especially laparoscopic procedures which he introduced into Ballarat.
And of course, more recently, bariatric surgery. Not a bad list.
He's an absolute zealot for teaching.
When I was 13 years old, I was quite interested in being a doctor. So once when I was visiting Ballarat, Uncle David snuck me into the operating theatre to observe an operation that he was performing because he wanted me to see what it was like. And now, 15 years later, Uncle David retired on the 13th of January at 5 p.m. and I started my first shift as an intern on the 13th of January at 5 p.m.
In addition, your enthusiasm for teaching is legendary, especially to trainees and young surgeons.
Of all my junior doctor friends and friends who are medical students, everyone thinks Uncle David is famous for being a surgeon that loves to teach and a surgeon that they all admire and respect and someone that they can aspire to be like when they grow up.
But from first-hand experience, I can definitely say that he brought a human touch, and I think that's a pretty close second to technical deafness.
He took me under his wing and looked after me. We had a close connection, and he showed this by calling me nice little nicknames along the way, like Little One or MP. He just always looked after me.
I'll always remember Mr. Deutscher for being there for me when I needed support in family times.
But all of this is well known. What we wanted to know is who is the man behind these achievements? Who is David Deutscher? A thief?
Things seemed to disappear into his briefcase and then more latterly into his oversized man bag that he carries around. And when they disappeared, they never came back. And we're not sure where they went. And it was sort of kind of like some magical trick, which at times was a bit frustrating because the girls were sure there was something that was in that briefcase or man bag that needed to be found.
A lunatic!
Apart from his crazy ties and crazy socks.
Well, in exclusive interviews, answered from undisclosed locations from across the globe, we can start to get a picture of who he really is.
In the end, what really strikes me about Dad is that he sees the humanness in everyone. He doesn't look at his patients as just diseases. He understands that they could be the son or daughter of someone, that they could have kids, that they have a life and a family.
And I'll remember him for his controlled chaos that he brought to our lives.
He brought a love of what he was doing to surgery, and I think you could see that in every asset or aspect of his surgical life.
He brought extra work for me, which is good.
I'll remember him because of the generosity of his time that he displayed towards me, and his dedication was unending for Ballarat Surgical Clinic, or BEST Surgical Clinic as he called it.
You know, he'll be in the hospital and he'll be greeting everyone from consultant to cleaner, or it could be when he brings the chefs out at the end of a lovely meal to thank them for their effort, or when he stops us in the street to enjoy the jazz musician playing. I think it's that Dad makes you appreciate the small things in life.
I'll remember the skid marks and broadies out the driveway.
But whilst the fake news media would have you believe that the work was all hunky-dory, we can reveal that things were not so easy going. Among that inexorable intensity, David did get under people's skin, pun fully intended.
Yes, he would never come to this room to do his procedure when he was asked to on time.
The last minute calls to change patient appointments, more so having to call the patients and explain, but it was always at the last minute.
He would say he's on his way down to the procedure room to do a procedure, and I'd be waiting 10, 15 minutes, and I'd ring him and I'd say, you forgotten us? He'd say, yeah, I'm coming.
And even if they prefer not to say so in public?
Well, I can't really recall any episodes that particularly bothered me.
Plenty, but we won't go into that.
Indeed, this reporter remembers one particularly memorable occasion in which he was served a dish of freshly cooked fish. Now, Mr. Deutscher had assured me that it was 100% free of bones. But upon taking the first bite, a fish bone miraculously managed to get lodged in my tonsils. Too embarrassed to go to the nearest hospital, my own brother was instructed to hold my arms down as I lay on the kitchen table. And Mr. Deutscher proceeded to extract said fishbone with all of his medical expertise and a rusty Leatherman. Getting under one's skin, indeed.
But to all those at BSC who have been a big part of Dad's life since 1989, thank you. And thank you for putting up with my father when he was suddenly transformed from erudite gentleman of medicine to cantankerous old man with particularly strident views about orthopods and hospital bureaucracy.
Nevertheless, as David ventures into the vast, unexplored ocean of retirement, his colleagues and family had no shortage of sage wisdom to dispense, despite the fact that only one of them was actually retired.
Well, I would have told him not to get into Lycra, but clearly we're too late for that. So, I guess I'd tell Dad that the best is yet to be. The adventure awaits you, and I can't wait to see what you're going to get up to.
To relax and enjoy it. He's worked very hard for a long time. It's time to take it all in and relax.
To look at his letters on the keyboard better.
Enjoy this time, you've deserved it, and your family can now have you back.
Never stop exploring, but make sure you take some time out to enjoy life with Mum, and don't hesitate to lean on your kids a little bit more, because when grandkids come along, your services will be engaged yet again.
And I suppose, like all of us, we would wish him well and hope that he slows down and enjoys his retirement.
Well, the only thing I can recommend is that David should slow down the clock and perhaps just smell the roses. It's difficult for someone, of course, with David's frenetic pace, but he just has to do it. And the other thing I would suggest, spending as much time as you can, David, with your family. As for a recipe for a happy marriage, In retirement, well, I read somewhere that you should always do breakfast and dinner with your wife, but never do lunch. In other words, give each other some space.
But this news report, like David's career, must finally come to an end. And there's only one way befitting to honour this legacy of this great man. And that's to say, Dad, I love you. I couldn't have asked for a better father. Stay young, stay hungry, and take a break, because bloody hell, you've earned it.
Affable.
Ambitious.
Enthusiastic.
Passionate.
Friend. Funny.
Hardcore.
Compassionate.
Loud.
Intrepid.
Boss. Professional.
Hardworking.
Principled.
Mentor.
And caring.
Well read.
Just do it.
I could take a senior's prerogative and add a fourth, and I would say love of family. Now, what did you bring to surgery?